Hello and welcome back to the channel on what is officially the first Steelers Friday of the season. That's what we're going to sort of brand this as whilst I do the NFL Daily Monday to Thursday. On Fridays, this is going to be Steelers Friday. Although, as I say that, there are going to be days where I'm going to have to do like Steelers Wednesday or I'm going to say Steelers Monday, depending on when we play Thursday or Monday nights. But whatever, Steelers Friday, we kick off the NFL week. The NFL season, rather, this weekend against the San Francisco 49ers at Heinz Field. It's always going to be Heinz Field to me. Obviously, we are in week one of the NFL season. The Detroit Lions getting the first win of the season in the opening game last night. But we're not here to talk about that. And as I said, whilst I like to focus on the NFL Daily and all the other big news that goes on around, like the Joe Burrow situation, for instance, well done him finally getting what he deserves. This is going to be focusing solely on the Steelers and previewing the weekend's games. And obviously this weekend, we have the San Francisco 49ers. Last year's NFC runners-up and a team who I am tipping to win the Super Bowl this year. I do not have them going undefeated, however, so with a bit of luck, their first loss will be this weekend. It may be their only loss, and if it is, so be it, but let's hope they lose this weekend. But we are going to start with our opponents of this weekend. And obviously the big news coming out of them is the situation regarding Nick Bosa. And by the way, I just want to point out I'm recording this at 1:20 on the Friday. So depending on when you are listening to this or watching this, things may have changed since then. So for instance, I'm going to be taking a look at the injury report. I looked at the injury report about half an hour ago. So things may have changed. Things may have been updated by the time this has gone out. Things may be happening right now. There's not going to be. You get the gist of it. So don't take everything that's being said here on gospel. It's just the latest information that we know. But obviously the Nick Bosa situation finally got his deal. Well worth it. Well deserved. But what's he going to be like in terms of being game ready? Because whilst we are to assume that he is healthy, like he doesn't have any knocks or niggles or anything like that, because he hasn't stepped foot on the field since the NFC Championship game, so he hasn't had a chance to, get a little knock in preseason or anything like that, or been slightly nursing a hamstring injury or something along those lines. So if we are to assume he is healthy, he's still not going to be at 100% game speed. Now, obviously, the Steelers have said this week, and Mike Tomlin said this week that they were preparing under the assumption that Nick Bosa was going to play. Obviously, that's going to come true. But just what level of effectiveness is he going to be? That is the big question. I think I mentioned this yesterday. I don't see him being able to play 100% of the snaps. Now, if that means he plays one whole series on, one whole series off, or if he just comes in for first and third downs, or if he's sprinkled in there, but I don't see him playing 100% of the defensive snaps, and that's something the Steelers should be looking to exploit. Whenever they can. If it's a case of, whenever Nick Bosa is on the field, if he is off the field, run towards him or where he would be, so on and so forth. Or if he's not on the field, that's when you want to pass because we know that he's not going to be disrupting Kenny Pickett, all that sort of stuff. I just don't see him, as I said, I don't see him playing 100%, and that is obviously of benefit to the Pittsburgh Steelers. But I do see him still being able to have an impact on the game because he is that damn talented. But on the subject of injuries, and again, just going off the latest injury report, arguably the biggest other news than the Nick Bosa situation is tight end George Kittle, one of the better tight ends in the league. Some might say the best. I still have it as Travis Kelce, but certainly amongst that discussion, he was limited with a groin injury in the latest report. Now, again, this is a very big advantage for the Steelers that they should be looking to exploit because if you look at what the main weakness of the Steelers has been in the past couple of years, at least on the defensive side of the ball, it has been that middle linebacker spot. Essentially, we have not been able to replace Ryan Shazier and Vince Williams in their middle. We tried it with Devin Bush, and whilst he started out okay, obviously injuries hampered him, and he went off to the wayside. Miles Jack again came in last year, looked pretty okay, but again injuries sort of cost him a bit. Robert Spillane, who I actually quite like as a player. But if you're not going to win the Super Bowl with Robert Spillane as your middle linebacker, at least as your starting middle linebacker, that just seems to be pretty obvious. But now that we do have this rotating cast of incredibly talented middle linebackers like Cole Holcomb, like Quan Alexander, like Mark Robinson, all these players, I think we do have enough to at least be able to handle a not 100%, assuming he is not going to be at 100% George Kittle or whatever other tight end the San Francisco 49ers throw at us. So I think, again, that's a huge advantage I think we can take, that we can be looking to exploit, and just take from there in what is a bit of a tricky offense with the San Francisco 49ers. Obviously, the Brock Purdy situation as well. He's he's had a bit of a rough off season. He's been recovering from his injury. What that's going to be moving forward, we don't know. Whether or not that's going to have a long-term impact on him, or whether or not last season was just there are a whole bunch of questions surrounding Brock Purdy, basically. But I think with the Steelers defense, with the the depth that we have at the various positions, I think we should have enough to at least keep him and the 49ers offense at bay. I see this talking on the grander scheme of things. I don't see this being a very high scoring game. I think whilst I do like what our offense has done moving forward, I think the 49ers defense still has a lot they can do. I will be touching on one of their players in a bit, but has a lot to keep this, what was it, 5 touchdowns, from Kenny Pickett's side at least, 5 touchdowns on 5 drives. They will have enough to slow that down, and I think the Steelers defense, with matching up with the 49ers, I think they will have enough to slow that down as well. They have a lot of playmakers like Christian McCaffrey, like Brandon Ayuk, like Deebo Samuel, and and all that jazz. But I think we've got a side that can at least slow them down and make sure that they're not the greatest show on turf, 2.0 or anything like that. So I think it's going to be a very low scoring game. But just touching on the defensive side of the ball, the main name that came out to me whilst watching the injury, or looking at the injury report rather, I'm going to butcher this, so I do apologise. Talanoga Hufanga, the All-Pro safety from last year, he appeared as a did not practice in the latest edition, as a non-injury related /knee. Again, similar with George Kittle, similar with Nick Bosa. If that is a situation where they are not at 100% in week 1, we're going to need to take every single advantage that we can get if we are going to pull out a win. And things like that is good. Players like that, again, not missing but not being at 100% is going to be crucial for us. Now, where I see the big battle of this game is going to be the Pittsburgh offensive line versus the San Francisco 49ers defensive line, who, 49ers have one of the best, the best defense from the NFL from last year. They were number 1 in terms of points given up, and they were on the stat sheet at least 2 in yards given up, but that needs to go with an asterisk because the Buffalo Bills were number 1, but that's the fact they lost. They only played 16 games, and had the Bengals game been played to a full conclusion, they would have given up X amount of yards, and the 49ers would have been number 1 on both. And if you look at what they've done, they haven't lost anyone of significance, but they have added Javon Hargrave and Clelin Ferrell, 2 very, very good players. We know what Javon Hargrave can do. So that is where I think the main battle is going to be, is making sure that the offensive line can keep the San Francisco 49ers front 7 at least at bay. We've seen what the Steelers have been doing this offseason with trying to make it a more run-heavy or run-orientated offense and trying to be physical with the two-headed monster running back of Najee Harris and Jalen Warren, with Darnell Washington coming in as the tight end, with adding Broderick Jones, who won't be starting but is there now as an option, depth option, and whenever we need him. George Pickens, obviously, with his blocking ability, it's a very physical team. Is basically the best way to put it. If you wanted to go at it, you can include the Kendrick Green thing as well, trying to put him a fullback. The signs are all there. So I think that's where the main battle is going to be taking place. And it's just whether or not, going back to Nick Bosa, do we have enough to stop the 49ers getting into the backfield on a regular basis? And I think we do. Again, you're not going to stop them completely. Javon Hargrave, Clelin Ferrell, Nick Bosa, the law, Fred Warner, blitzing us. You're not going to be able to keep them out the whole game. So it's just going to be a case of managing what sort of damage the 49ers can do on that end, and with a bit of luck, basically getting the ball out of Kenny Pickett's hands as quickly as possible. Whilst people might have been annoyed with what Matt Canada did last season with the jet sweeps and the quick passes, and going back to what was happening in the Ben Roethlisberger days and all that sort of stuff, this is arguably a game where you want that to happen, because with that front seven, you don't want to keep Kenny Pickett in the pocket far, all that longer than he needs to, and you don't want to, run the risk of basically running into a brick wall with Najee Harris and Jalen Warren into a very, very stout defensive line. So there's a lot of things that are going to be that is going to be the most interesting battle of the day for me. I do think that we can win it, and as I said, at least keep them at bay. But I don't think it's going to be a walk in the park by any means either. And touching on the defensive line, again, go back to the Steelers injury report. The only two players are on there. Cam Hayward, who did not practice as a result of a stomach issue. We hope that's nothing too bad. Hopefully, it's not a flu or a cold or something that takes him out for 2 to 3 days. Hopefully, it's something minor. And Larry Ogunjobi was limited with a foot thing. Both of them not major concerns for me, and I don't want to sort of belittle what Larry Ogunjobi can do, but if you look at again the depth options that we have with Keanu Benton and Montravius Adams, and I know I'm missing a name off the top of my head. DeMarvin Leal. I think it's DeMarvin Leal. Let me just check. Sorry, now I'm back. Yes, it is DeMarvin Leal. For some reason, I just had, because of the EAL at the end of it, I just had Keanu Neal just screaming at my name as just the name to ring out. But obviously, he's defensive back, so not the one. Just a bit of a brain thing there. But again, with the strength and depth that we have on the defensive side of the ball, I think he's going to be very, very. I think again, if Larry Ogunjobi is not at 100%, I think we have enough to be able to go along with that, and again, with a little bit of luck, pick up a win. But on the subject of picking up a win, I think that's the main thing that I sort of wanted to talk about with when I was planning out this episode. I think a bit like the Detroit Lions last night, this isn't so much a game about winning and losing. It's about, to use the cliche, making a statement. If it all comes down to whether or not going back to preseason, it just comes back to give me something to at least give me hope. All through preseason, we saw what the offense can do. We saw what the backups can do, and the depth that we are starting to get. Most notably Nick Herbig. I don't mind if we lose this game in a tight one, because San Francisco 49ers are one of the better teams in the league. If we get blown out, that would be a thing for concern. If we keep it close, not to say that I'd be happy with the loss, but I can at least stomach it. And again, say no, we can at least go toe to toe with the big guys. Again, similar to Detroit Lions, a lot of hype around them. Would a tight loss, say the Kansas City Chiefs went and kicked a field goal at the last minute, in the last second to win it, they would have taken a lot of confidence from that to say, right, at least we can hang with the big boys. Same sort of thing for us. Now, we are still growing as a team. We are still a very young team. Whilst I do have good ambitions and expectations for us, I'm not too far down the rabbit hole not to say that this is a game that we could conceivably lose. But again, as long as we put in a good enough performance and keep it close, and there are signs of progress, and TJ Watt can show what he can do, and Nick Herbig can show that he can do it against first teamers, regular first teamers. Whether or not he's going to be going up against Trent Williams, one of the better left tackles in the league, all that sort of stuff. So long as I can have signs that this is a team that can actually do something, and then when the lesser teams, like next week against the Cleveland Browns, even within the division like the Baltimore Ravens, all that sort of stuff. As long as I can have some form of hope, I'd be very willing to take that. So that's really all I've got to say about the game and the preview. I will give a score prediction. As I said, I think it's going to be a low scoring one. I will go with. You can tell I didn't prepare this, didn't you? At least I didn't prepare the score. I will go with a 23-20 Steelers victory. Again, if the scores reverse and we lose 23-20, I'll be quite happy with that as well. Again, just give me something to look forward to for the rest of the season. So that's really it. Let's go Steelers, and hopefully we can pick up a win. And until then, I will see you Monday with NFL Daily.